Hi everyone, and welcome to Lent video number 2. So in the last video we talked about that we were going to be using Psalm 84 together during Lent. So let's go ahead and get started. The first verse is, "How lovely is your dwelling place, O Lord Almighty." This is one of my favorite opening lines of a psalm, and I actually have so much to say about it that we're just going to stick with that one verse for this video, and then we'll move a little faster with some of the other parts of the psalm. This is actually going to be one of 3 power verses that I will challenge you to memorize during Lent. This one, and then there's going to be another verse in the middle of the psalm and another one towards the end. So let's talk about that term dwelling place. That's not a word that most of us would use very often, or a phrase that we'd use very often. But I kind of like it because it sounds sort of fancy and poetic, and I like that kind of stuff. But what does the word dwelling place mean in the context of this psalm? So a Jewish person from Old Testament times, if they were talking about God's dwelling place, everybody would understand in their time that they were talking about the temple. So because just like now in our time, Jesus is physically present in the host that we take at Mass, in the bread. In their time, before Jesus came, God had told the people that he would be physically present in the temple, in the Holy of Holies. So in the innermost part of the temple, there was a little room called the Holy of Holies where they kept the Ark of the Covenant, which was basically just like this large metal box that was beautifully decorated with gold and all these other precious stones. And on the lid of the Ark, there were 2 statues or carvings of angels. God told the people that his presence would rest there in that specific little spot between the 2 angels. It's kind of neat, isn't it, that he made himself small for them. Just like now in the Eucharist, Jesus makes himself small and gets into that little tiny host, the Eucharist. The actual ark was eventually lost after Israel was captured by the Babylonians, but at the time that this psalm was written, it was still there. And people would go to the temple, and because they wanted to be in the physical presence of God. And they would still pray at home, but to go to the temple and actually be in the place where God's presence was, that was something really special. And that's why the person who wrote this psalm just can't wait to go there. I mean, we kind of take that for granted sometimes, right? We can go to Mass, we can go to adoration, but when we're doing that, we're actually making a pilgrimage to God's holy dwelling place, just like when he used to be in the temple. So how about next time you go to Mass, if you have a moment before Mass begins or after you receive the Eucharist, just take a minute to think about that and how amazing it is that we can be in the same room with God. And you can use that power verse of Psalm 84:1 and just say it to him in the secret of your mind. How lovely is your dwelling place, O Lord Almighty. It just takes a couple of seconds, but it's a prayer that I think makes God's heart happy because we're basically saying, I'm happy to be here with you in your dwelling place.